rolling.
Let's talk,
Action.
let's vibe, let's unwind. Share stories from the back of the daily grind. With every play, a piece of our lives combined.
Yes, everyone, how are we doing? My name's Paddy. I'm the founder of So Let's Talk, and we work on the mental, physical, and financial health of hospitality professionals. In this podcast series, expect us to be chatting all things people, culture, health, lifestyle. And with that in mind, I am sat next to an incredible human, Chris from Nightcap. How are we doing, bud?
Hello, mate. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for that introduction.
I know, right? I saw your little face. You were like, that's me. Yeah, man. So, yeah, talk to me. So, for anyone that doesn't know, what's your role? Who do you work with?
Yeah, so I'm a people business partner for Nightcap, and been with the company almost 3 years. So, seen a lot of changes in the company, but it's a fast-paced beast.
It is, isn't it?
Company. And my role's changed a few times in that time as well. So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So, the big business, innit? How many sites do you have?
46 sites.
46 sites.
Yeah,
how many different like concepts sit within inside of that group?
Wow, there's a lot of brands.
There isn't that?
I don't even know how many. There's like 4 main core brands.
Yeah.
The Cocktail Club, Dirty Martini, Tonight Josephine and Blaine Gloria. They're like the core brands.
Yeah.
There's a few little random ones on the side.
On the side, yes. And it's wild because when we first started working together, I was like, I thought I knew the business, and then went through it, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of different sites, and we're going to get into that as a people professional because I know you said you've had a couple of different roles inside of Nightcap. Before we do all of that, what even got you into hospitality? How did it start?
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I was at university studying diagnostic radiography at Salford. Good old Salford down the road.
Down the road.
And down the road. And I, as most students do, got a bar job.
Yeah.
Because I needed to fund my lifestyle at the time. So yeah, I started working behind the bar, Village Hotels.
Okay.
Presswich. It's no longer there now. But
right.
That was my first bar job. And then went and worked in reception, which is more my vibe, so I got to wear a waistcoat. And then carried on sort of working in the bar scene like through uni. Ended up working in a gay club in Manchester city centre that's also no longer there.
Is that on Canal Street?
On the corner of Canal Street, yeah.
Right.
Bit of an iconic venue that turned into being a lot more part of my life kind of further down the line.
Okay.
So I did that and then went off, graduated from uni and did my sort of 7 years as a radiographer. Left kind of hospitality behind and then ended up back working at that club again 7 years later.
Did you?
As a manager, yeah.
Right.
And I'd been there 3 years and that was like the start of my proper sort of hospitality career.
Yeah.
Learned a lot there. It was mad.
So you were managing a late night venue. So like we're talking Canal Street. What era we're talking like?
So that was 2006.
2006.
2009.
Okay, it's like it was. Yeah, hospitality scene in Manchester was like wild. 2006, 2000. Like
the club scene was a lot more prevalent then. Like now, it's the bigger places like the Warehouse Project and things like that. Whereas the smaller clubs, Sankey's was going full pelt.
Yeah,
Essential was big, and it was a good time, but not very healthy.
Yeah, we're going to get onto all of that, right? We're definitely going to get onto all of that. And managing any late night venue, I mean, I was in nightclubs to get started with, and it can be heavy, can't it? Because you start when it's dark, you finish when it's dark. Like, people are going to really enjoy themselves.
It's like 4 a.m. closes on a Saturday, Friday and Saturday. So it's just not a normal time to finish work.
No. But it is for hospitality professionals sometimes, right?
Sometimes it is. Yeah. So I left there and went to work for a large company because it was an independent. It was run by Nigel Smith.
Oh, that guy
from Take That fame.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot there, but I realised that it wasn't going to progress my career in any way, shape or form. So that's when I left and moved to Leeds and started working in Tiger in Leeds.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't know you worked in Tiger.
Yeah,
How long were you there for?
That was my journey through Novus Leisure.
Yeah.
It was. I was with that company 4 years nearly. Took me down to London and then back to Leeds.
Okay.
So it was fun.
Yeah, that is. And then after that,
After that, I then was in London.
Yeah.
And it got to a bad place with my health, and realised that the hospitality industry was not the place for me for a number of years.
Yeah.
Did a little stint in rehab.
Yeah.
And working in hospitality in London was like the kind of sharp end of the wedge that kind of got me to that place. And then so took a few years out, got myself a little bit better, and then dipped my toe back in. I didn't know where I was going to go back to, radiography or back into hospitality, and I kind of did a bit of both. Was working for a quick service healthy fast food brand in Manchester for a while.
Oh, right, okay.
That was my kind of journey back to kind of working customer facing roles and operations. And then I went to work for New World Trading Company.
Wow.
So I was the GM, the botanist in York for a while.
Okay, busy site.
Which was great. I liked York. Lovely little site. And then ended up working in their openings team. And that's how I got poached from them to work for, as was the Cocktail Club.
Yeah.
And which is now part of Nightcap. And yeah.
Some journey,
It's
some journey.
Yeah. With a couple of years of radiography thrown in at the other end as well. So yeah, it's been a journey. It has been a journey.
Yeah, that is wild. And as you said, so you went into recovery, right?
Yeah.
And recognised that you had an addiction.
Yeah, that's been a big journey.
Yeah.
The realisation process for me took a long time.
Yeah.
And I think, I needed to go through a lot of drama and pain and process for me to get to the place I am today.
Yeah.
Even going to rehab, that was a big turning point. I learned a lot there, but I still didn't stay clean sober. I came out and I had a couple of months, and then I relapsed. So yeah, it was. There's been lots of kind of stages.
Yeah.
And we realised it. I would search for a long time about why I used drugs and alcohol, and trying to find the reasons why. And I had a medical background. I was like deep into the psychology and psychiatry of it all, and like what happened to me and why did I do it and what was going on. And that took a lot of my energy and brain power. But when I went to rehab, the realization that it doesn't really matter why this is going on for you. It's happening. You're suffering from an addiction. You've got an addict personality. These are the behaviours and the thoughts and the kind of the stuff that goes on. Deal with that, rather than try and figure out the whys and wherefores of it. And that was like a huge moment for me to be like, actually, this is a big enough mountain to climb without me trying to dig through my past of stuff that, I had a great childhood. I've got two amazing parents. There was no kind of big traumatic experience, thankfully for me, that I could kind of put this attach this kind of addictive behaviour to and blame, which made it was obviously a good thing, but also very confusing and very weird and frustrating, because I was like, I don't know
what the fuck is it?
Why am I doing this? Like, in that realisation that the way my brain works with various different things and the pattern of behaviour is completely how an addict would behave. And being in a big old manor house on the top of a hill in Weston-super-Mare with 35 other people, all from every walk of life and background and drug of choice and all that sort of stuff, was like, it was mad to be there and be like, I identify with all of you people, even though my upbringing and background and, parenting, all that stuff was completely different to a lot of people there. And there was a lot of interesting characters there that I would never really be friends with, but that identification piece was huge, because it was like, this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and addiction doesn't discriminate, right? So it's like it can be anybody from any walk of life. And I've never really heard it being framed like that. So they were saying that, look, you've got an active addiction. The energy that you're going to need to be able to work and focus, your energy needs to be on that. trying to figure out whether it's trauma from a certain point, it's not going to help at the moment.
No.
And you just needed to figure that out. So how long were you in rehab for? How long did you stay there for?
So I stayed... It's funny, when I was going, I was like, I'm just going to do the 3 months. The 3 months, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I need. I'm going to be fine. And actually, I was getting to the end of the 3 months. I had the opportunity to stay for another 3 months. And I was like, you know what? Absolutely, I want to stay. And just give myself this headspace. I'd kind of stepped off the hamster wheel. I'd resigned from work.
Yeah.
I was lucky that I had some really amazing friends around me. That my friend Tim, who I was living with at the time, he found a flat in London that he could afford to pay, a 2-bedroom flat that he could afford to pay for on his own, that I could stay there and have my stuff there and still have a home there. But I didn't have to worry about paying rent and any bills or any financial sort of stress, which is like possibly the most caring and amazing thing that someone's ever done for me.
So cool.
So I was really, really lucky that I was like, okay, well, I've got an opportunity to stay 6 months and really give myself the best opportunity. So yeah, I stayed for 6 months, and like I say, you know, I wasn't fixed, but I learned a lot.
Yeah. And that's an interesting the phrase, isn't it? Fixed. Because with people that might not know anything about addiction, or substance use disorder, or whatever it might be, might not understand that it's an ongoing process. So like it doesn't just go away at any point in time. I'm still trying to figure out if I am an addict. I don't really know. But the energy that I need to work on it, I've used on stopping drinking. I don't have any more energy at the moment to go and figure out whether it's an addiction or a substance use disorder, whatever it might be. I'm just using all the energy on just stopping drinking, which is fixing the thing, right? And stopping taking the drugs.
And that's the key thing. At the minute, I'm going through a bit of a behavioural thing around eat sugar and kind of that whole ritual of having something sweet at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that is my addictive kind of mindset playing out in my life. Yeah, it's not drugs, it's not alcohol. And I'm very lucky that 6.5 years that I've never done drugs or alcohol.
6.5 years?
Yeah.
That's class.
Which is really great.
Wow, man.
So that's good in one thing, but it doesn't go away. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Those kind of thinking and those behaviours still are around.
Yeah.
And you just have to acknowledge them and understand them, and kind of that is again a huge process. And you know, for me, I don't know if we're going to talk about like how I got through it, but
please.
Going to a 12-step kind of recovery group. The rehab I went to was a 12-step recovery.
So it was AA, was it?
NA.
NA, right.
Yeah. And I'd gone to meetings quite a lot before I'd gone to rehab. So I had experience of the 12 steps and the process and the program. And it just kind of resonated with me, and I kind of got it. It wasn't easy at the start, but it felt like it made sense in my head.
Yeah.
So then when I had the opportunity to go to a 12-step rehab, I was like, yeah, great. And that obviously helped because I'd always been familiar with the program and stuff. And the meetings are hugely invaluable. So when I did end up stopping the day, D-Day, the way I managed to get through it was literally going to a meeting every day.
Okay. And it was like every single day?
Every single day.
Do you get a sponsor from your first meeting?
That's the plan.
Right.
There's lots of suggestions, getting phone numbers of other people that you can reach out to, like sponsor, all that stuff, picking up the literature.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to get a sponsor that was that I identified with, and I kind of resonated with, and he kind of got where I was coming from. Literally just every day meetings, recovery,
Wow.
because like for me that was the only option really.
Yeah.
I had to have a word with myself and say, if you carry on like this, and bear in mind I'd had this conversation with myself about 100 times before, but things transpired where I lost my job, and I was in a situation where I had to say to myself, if you don't use this bad situation that you're in right now as an opportunity to really make this work, and to really just do whatever you can to stay clean, it's not going to end well for you.
I bet.
And you know, I'm lucky at that moment the worlds collided, and it was powerful enough for me to be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, went to a meeting every day, talked to people. I'd already got a good relationship and a good kind of like network of people in NA, Manchester, so I was literally able to reconnect with everybody and just kind of reach out and be like, you know, thank goodness I was, you know, it's been okay since that day, you know. And like I've been so grateful for all that, even though I kind of look back at it sometimes and be like, wow.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that, but if you're happy to. So to kind of project to my own lived experience, like I used to hear people say you have to get to a really bad place and you have to let that person get to that bad place before they have to want to support themselves, and it's usually a catalyst, and that catalyst is something that's not enjoyable and it's usually really dark. And I share my story all the time. Was there a point in time in your life where you were like, okay, do you remember that time? Do you remember where you were and what it felt like to be in that place?
Yeah, for me there's a few things that kind of were powerful leading up to that. I remember having a conversation with my best mate, who actually share a flat with in London now, and we're still friends like 25 years later. But he has been through all my kind of active addiction and all the tragic and slightly hilarious things that happened to me along the way. Yeah. But I remember sitting with him one day and he said to me, look, I'm just mad with you because I don't want you to die. And I think you're going to die. Okay. And I'm mad at you because, like, me and you have been friends, and for you to choose to die and leave me here, I'm not okay with that. And hearing that was pretty... I mean, at the time, it resonated with me. It didn't stop me using, by the way, but, like, it was in my brain. And now when I reflect back on the kind of last few years of my active addiction and the things like that, all the really terrible things that I got myself into, that's the stuff that keeps me clean now. You hear about like the gift of desperation and those things that kind of give you that horrible feeling when you think about them, but they're the things that I never want to get back to that. I never want my life to be in that place.
So that's an away from movement, right? So you want to see the gift of desperation for like anyone listening. That's where you have something that you really don't want to be again. So you do everything within your power to move away from that desperation and keep on the track that you're on.
100%, because, you know, work inside the industry, alcohol, drugs, you know, in a relationship, some of the drinks, not to excess, but you know, it's all around us, isn't it? It's all around us. And so it could always be that the choice would be when you're around that situation to be like, I want to go back there, I want to have a drink. And the thing that makes me not want to do that, and when you look at it objectively and the scales go like this, is that all that stuff, those conversations, the stuff that went down, those terrible, that awful feeling, being on that hamster wheel of just not being able to stop, all that is this massive weight on one end of the scales, and the drink is this tiny little thing, so it never tips the other way, because however good a drink might feel, or doing a line or anything like that, like it's never ever going to outweigh the big pile of stuff that's on the other end of the scale. And so I'm grateful for that, because you know, that whenever there's a thought process there, I'm like, oh, well, no, never want to do it. So it never becomes a thing. People are like, do you not miss drinking? It's like, no, because for me, this huge thing, this big nightmare that's sitting in the wings waiting for me, if I did pick up a drink, no. Is
that what your parents said, a child might have to touch fire before they learn not to go near it again, right? And it's kind of like you remember that feeling of that burn. So, but then I listen to some people, and there's a lot of toxic positivity out there, and it's like, oh, but then you're living in a place where you're not forgiving yourself, or you're not showing gratitude for your process. And it's like, well, actually, that doesn't work for everybody. Like, gratitude works in loads of different ways, but sometimes having that kind of, actually, I don't ever want to be in that place again. And
I'm grateful for those experiences, though. I'm grateful for that feeling, because So what's keeping me clean? I spent 15 years trying to get clean and going to meetings and doing therapy and meditating and all the things, loading in apps coming out of my butt around giving up drugs and, focusing on this and, outreach with community services and therapists telling me that I just needed to go and do salsa lessons because it was just that I needed to fill my time with other things rather than take drugs.
Was that a genuine thing? Did someone tell you to go and do salsa?
Yeah.
Is that a therapist?
That was somebody in the community that was trying to help me, when I was in a bit of a bad
We need to
place.
remember that they are still trying to help, right?
100%. And I think
blanket advice, all right?
I was a bit like,
yeah, and that blanket advice for person-centered stuff is, I think, what is, do we just see a lot of it now, don't we? It's like, if you've got ADHD, you listen to this frequency and it's going to help you clear your mind, and it's like, fuck off. That might work for some people, not for me. Where if somebody would have said to me when I went over, try salsa, I'd have been like, you don't know.
exactly.
You just don't know. You know what this guy, right?
But I was like, nah.
that ain't gonna work.
No.
But we are gonna talk about what else you do now. So we talk a lot over bud, and you do a lot of other stuff. But we'll move on to that conversation after I just bring it back to, you've been through all this process. You went through the whole recovery, into rehab, really powerful story. And then you went back to hospitality. For anybody else looking in, they're like, wait a minute, why? So where did that thought process come from?
Well, I also went back to radiography, and there was a history of my drug use in that environment as well.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what led me to leave that profession at the start. And when I came out of rehab, I felt a lot of grief around losing that profession. I'd gone to uni, I'd done well, I was good at that job, I enjoyed it. Again, I was working with people, working with patients, and the technology side of it I really enjoyed. I was really good at it.
Yeah.
And it was so, I was so upset to not to be able to do that job anymore.
Yeah.
And so, whether it was ego, whether it was me just trying to prove something to myself, or whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to get back into this.
Okay.
And I did.
Yeah.
And I really underestimated the huge power of the past, call it euphoric recall, around kind of past places, things.
So what they call it, euphoric recall.
Euphoric recall,
Never heard that before.
Yeah, where your past kind of drug taking environments will still kind of be in the background of your head, and if you're back in those situations, that whole kind of, your brain's like, oh, I remember this. This felt really good last time this happened, even though it was like 11 years later.
Wow.
So that environment was also really unhealthy for me.
Yeah.
And I had to step away from that.
Yeah.
And acknowledge the fact of this is not a good environment for me, and I can't do this job. Even though I loved it, I was helping people.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So that was really sad, but in a way, it kind of gave me a little bit more of a different perspective about what I did with my life. So then part of me, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I've already done these 2 jobs. What am I going to do? Yeah. And I did a little bit exploring. It was youth work, work for charities, all that stuff. I was trying to figure out what would be the best thing for me, because the goal then was, because I was clean and sober, I was like, this has got to be my number one priority. Because without my recovery, my life's just not going to be anything productive or useful or enjoyable. So, I was looking at it from that angle.
It makes sense.
Which was different. So then, working around the gym food and healthy fast food, that kind of coffee environment, that was where I went into first.
Yeah.
To get back into work and kind of back feeling a little bit more kind of back in the game.
Yeah.
In terms of what work was going to be for me. And then it was the opportunity to then move into another company that what seemed a lot more people-centered.
Okay.
Around sort of training and people development.
Yeah.
And seemed to care about the teams. I had a couple of negative experiences previously.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay, this sounds like... And I did a lot of chat.
Okay.
I had a lot of chat. I'm very lucky that my parents are really supportive.
Yeah.
Bless them. And some friends and people that I really respect and that kind of value their opinion.
Yeah.
And then other people in the fellowship of NA.
And they were like, this is...
To be like, right, this is my plan.
Yeah.
What am I missing? What mistakes am I making here?
Wow.
Because I asked that question before I went back into radiography and I didn't listen. A couple of people said, oh, do you think that's a good idea? Because of previous experience. And I was like, yeah. I'm fine now.
Yeah.
So...
in that tribe and that kind of support network so powerful, all right, and so important.
Because going back to what we were saying, like, your thinking is I'm still an addict in recovery. I've still got some of the similar kind of tendencies to think a certain way.
Yeah, without a doubt.
With things. So I was like, okay, I can think a certain thing, but I need other people to help me guide my thinking, because it could be that I'm just tuning into the wrong thought process here.
Yeah, and there wasn't a strong euphoric recall from hospitality, right? There wasn't if I go back and I'm in an environment where I'm surrounded by booze and potentially people might be taking drugs during or after shift, that was never a thought process for you.
Luckily, because I went and worked somewhere that was quite food-led, and not late night, it was like a 12 midnight or 1 a.m. close latest, mainly restaurant-based, it was easier. And for me, alcohol wasn't the main trigger. It wasn't my main kind of go-to. So it was easier for me to have that around, because I'm like, well, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
In that environment. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I think we both talked about that, didn't we? Where I never did drugs if I was sober. So coke was my choice, right? I never did coke if I was sober. So my trigger for me was, as soon as I had a drink, I would just get a bag of cocaine. Like, that would just be the thing. Where for you, that wasn't the case.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was gonna go to something, it would be a bag of coke or a bag of ketamine to be like...
Yeah.
And then the alcohol would just come along to try and manage the feelings,
I get it.
Yeah. In whichever way. So I would never have gone back to work in like a club or a late night venue or anything like that. So I was lucky that an opportunity came along really for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just reflecting on it now, like whether that was a good idea really, but like ultimately I still needed to work. I still need to get, I was kind of sick of like having to restart a job and career and like try and progress. I was getting older and I wanted to like be successful, and all that stuff that is part of me was still there, and that drive and wanting to be successful and, do a good job and all that. Being an addict doesn't remove any of that. That's still part of you, and I was still desperately trying to, move forward with my life. And so it was like, okay, I can do this if I'm very objective around how my recovery, it always has to be first. But this is something I've done before. I've weighed up the risks. Okay, I could probably do this. Let's go for it. So I was lucky that it all panned out. And
but it was lucky. Like, it's lucky in some aspects, but also like an incredibly powerful story, right, from yourself and your lived experience, and taking all of those. And then I suppose when you think about being a people professional, everyone's got a reason why. So what do you think it is about your lived experience that's taking you into working in a people role now?
Weekends off? No.
Yeah, valid.
But so I was working with Nightcap in openings. I was head of openings during a big rollout. The cocktail club and barrier brand, which was really good.
Yeah.
All very project based, stuff that I really worked well in. But 45 that I made, wanted to see what else I could do.
Yeah.
Before it was too late. I wanted to learn some new skills. I had some people skills from being a GM and sort of some operational stuff, employee relations, things like that. I'd done a lot before. Going back to working for New World, they were really good at kind of supporting the general managers to train the teams and develop people, and that was something that I really loved.
Without doubt.
That was the kind of role and the kind of person that I was. I'm not a spreadsheet guy.
Yeah.
So when there was an opportunity within Nightcap we didn't really have a people function a few years ago. We desperately needed some support with manager development, training, and with then the subsequent kind of aligning of the companies once Nightcap became the thing it is today. And I was lucky enough that I was in the right place at the right time. They were like, do you fancy doing this? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Going back to your question around why that helps me in my recovery is that...
I wonder so much helps you with the recovery. I mean, what is it about your lived experience that took you into being a hospitality professional? Because like when I see you operate, like I can tell that it comes quite naturally to you. Being around people, being empathetic, right? Wanting to help and support, all of these things. And whenever I talk to somebody, everyone says usually people that are like that have experienced quite a lot in life.
Yeah.
Experienced quite a lot of maybe hurt and turmoil and some feelings where they don't want other people to be experiencing that kind of stuff. So then they go into a support role. They'll go into a role where they want to help others.
Gives you quite a unique perspective for sure on things. My operational background, I've run shifts, I've worked with the teams, I've been in that environment. Yeah, now I'm out of that and looking at it through a different lens, but also my experience of being a bit like, I've been through a lot, so let's just have a little bit of a perspective here. And those kind of situations that might kind of spiral out of control for no reason, or that might seem to be really intense, but actually if you take a step back and look at it a little bit differently, aren't. I kind of enjoy being part of that and giving my kind of opinion. I'm not shy in my opinions.
No, which I think is great.
Yeah, we'll attest to that.
I think it's incredible. Yeah. So like the way that I usually put it across is like, so when people potentially share heavy things, some people will naturally want to avoid those kind of conversations. And when you've used to be carrying your own heavy stuff for a little while, and then you work through all of those, when somebody else shares something, it's like, okay, cool, I can like kind of lighten the load a little bit. But one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about is the misconception. So did you have any expectations of what being in a people role would look like versus what it is actually like now?
I don't think so. I think because my role is very much a business partner with the operations teams and working with the kind of head of people and people director to kind of shape the landscape of what Nightcap is, because it's such a new company. I don't really know whether I had any expectations, really. I'm just kind of throwing myself into everything, which is great. I'm learning a lot around sort of people strategy and kind of how a company thinks about its value and thinks about its own proposition from the people element, which I never really had a lot of experience or exposure to before, which is really good. 100%, the opportunity just to be that person that people will reach out to you about and be like, hey, my OM has sold me to give you a call because I'm going through this stuff. Can we have a chat? And I'm like, 100%. That's a great place to be. I guess for me in this role, I obviously want to learn as much as I kind of progress and develop and become the best people business partner going. But to be able to, for people in our company to know that there's that support there, it's huge.
It's huge, and we've been obviously we work with you, right? And we work with Nightcap, and we've been really agile in our approach to it. So there's been a lot of listening to understand what the team want, making sure that we're not just kind of putting stuff out there for putting stuff out there's sake, and that everything kind of aligns with a culture and a value and a purpose. So one of the questions that I had down for you is, and I know that sometimes we can get really caught up in the work that we do because we care. Well, who are you when you're not being hospitable? Like, who are you outside of hospitality when you're not working?
I asked my boyfriend this question and he said hungry.
Hungry? Valid.
I think he was thinking about it like, when you're not being hospitable, when you're not happy, what are you? You're hungry. But actually, translate. Who am I when I'm not hospitable?
What makes you happy outside the
I
trade?
think having that kind of time outside of work is really, really important. And again, actually, tying to your last question around being a people professional, like in operations, serving openings, kind of the pace of work is very project-led. So you're kind of building up to a new site, it gets busier and busier and busier as you get closer towards the opening, and then it's hugely intense. And then you open it, and you have a launch party, everyone's loving it, and then it kind of dies off again, and then you kind of start building for the next. Whereas working in people, like the workload's constant, and it's just like, you know, and you do have to be a lot more boundaried about like switching your phone off or just ignoring your phone or just being like, you know what, I'm going to respond to that message tomorrow. And that's taking a little bit of learning, getting used to. So with that being said, like I think I am a lot more boundaried around my time, and
You are.
being kind of like, my job is my job, right? It's not who I am.
Okay.
It's part of me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of years, my job was not who I am, but I know you've said this about you before, like, you know,
My identity was
identify myself as that. And, you know, that isn't who I am.
No.
That's what I do. And, you know, it's important to me, but it isn't, you know, my relationships with my family and friends and kind of
Going to the
keeping
gym,
healthy and going to the gym. I'm a recovery.
Yeah.
My recovery, again, is like, you know, that doesn't go away. So I still have to keep an eye on that and make sure that I give myself the opportunity to remember who I am outside of work.
So necessary, isn't it? It's so necessary. And the reason why I say it's necessary, it's especially when you're moving into a new profession, right? Working inside of people, like opening venues and working in hospitality, you're surrounded by people all the time, managing teams of people. You are managing teams of people. But working inside of like a HR function or a people function, it's completely different. Like it is so different. I'm saying it like I know. I second hand know, because all I do is
Listen to us, mate.
yeah, talk to all the people professionals about what it is that's going on. And it's really necessary to be able to go, right, okay, that's me when I'm working, and then outside of work, here's the other stuff that I'm doing. And whenever I feel myself kind of resenting the work that I do, feeling tired, lethargic, some of the real telltale signs of burnout, I look at my life balance and I go, I'm spending 90% of my time doing Paddy the founder of So Let's Talk, and 10% being who I am outside of that, which is like cricket and family and food and nature and all of the good stuff. So there's not enough balance going on there in my life.
Yeah, 100%.
And then if someone gives me feedback on that work, it's going to feel really fucking personal, isn't it? Because if 90% of my life is spent doing it and you give me feedback on it, it's going to feel like you're giving feedback on me and my whole world.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's not healthy for no one. So outside of the world of Nightcap, you like training, like making sure you focus on recovery.
You know what? The recovery stuff is interesting because obviously Nightcap is a late night cocktail.
Yeah, it is.
Company.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of drinking going on because that's what we do. And so just thinking about when you were talking then about the life balance thing, my recovery kind of gives me the opportunity to step out of, I'm not saying I never socialise with my colleagues or I don't go into any of the bars, I do 100%, but there's a point where I only go into that kind of bit of behaviour for a short time.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, I've enjoyed this has been fun, but I need to go to the gym, or I've got a commitment to go and cook dinner for my other half, or, you know, whatever else it is. And it's almost easier for me.
Yeah.
Because there is that pressure for people in the environment. We're like, come on, stay out, have another drink.
Yeah.
Kind of that whole vibe of, because people are just so used to doing that, and it's such a societal thing. Like, we're all out, we'll all get smashed. You know, everybody that I work with would never really do that to me because they know I don't drink, so they know that I've got a very sort of limited time window where I'll be there, I'll be having a nice time, but nobody will be like, stay.
Yeah, I've got
no, they're like, no, Chris has had enough, he's going. And
it's nice that they know those boundaries though, right?
100%.
I think there's a lifespan to setting boundaries, isn't there? So usually if you're not comfortable doing it, you'll explain your boundaries. So you'll set a boundary and you'll be like, oh, but I'm doing it because this and you feel like you need to. And then you get to the next stage of it, which is you just set the boundary and don't explain it. So it's really cliche, but like no's a full sentence. Do you want to stay for another one? No. And then that's it. And then the final stage bit, which is what you're talking about there, is you don't have to carry on in setting those boundaries because the people around you know how strong those boundaries already are. They stop asking you. So it's like they're not going to ask you to stay for longer. If you're leaving, they'll just be like, he's going. He's had enough. He can only listen to the drunk talk for a certain amount of time. Yeah, what's like my boundaries is deep and meaningful before 8 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if someone has like a deep and meaningful really early on and it's like drinking juice, I'm out. Or if somebody says the same story twice.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just my cut off.
Yeah.
I'll leave. And I just go home now. And it's like, I'm done. It's like, you just told me that 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's my cue to skedaddle. So yeah, look, we've gone through the whole process of talking about like your recovery, and I think it's going to be really powerful for anyone listening to this or watching this. If somebody did come to you and they shared that they had some worries about any kind of substance or a potential addiction, what would the first thing that you'd say to somebody?
I mean, it means so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah.
And, it's happened to me with friends, it's happened to me with colleagues, and, everybody's been such at different stages. I guess it'd be honest with yourself about how it's affecting your life. Those things that it's affecting, whether that is just, oh my God, I go to work every Monday and I feel like crap because I've got an event or weekend, or if it's my finances are in the toilet, my relationship with my family is broken down because I've been lying to them for the last however long, or the really, more deep kind of problems. And, the biggest thing that I did was years and years ago, I felt quite broken, and an ex-boyfriend of mine said to me, we need to go and tell your mum and dad. We need to go and just tell them what's going on. Yeah. And that honesty with them helped me then be honest, because I then built, it was a horrible conversation.
Yeah.
And again, one of those things I look back on that keeps me in that place, because it's like, oh my God, I never want to do that again. But that honesty and building those honest communications with people that I care about are the key things.
Yeah.
So being honest with yourself around how it's impacting you, and then getting some help from somebody that might have been through it.
Yeah.
Whether that is, there's so much help out there.
Loads, we're going to pop them all on.
It isn't just because I've found resonation with the 12-step fellowship and that's been my journey. There's loads of other help.
Yeah.
But I think it's just about, being honest with yourself around the problem and then sharing it. And hopefully, being able to sort of make a plan.
Yeah, I remember the first time I shared it with my mum, and she'd been coached for like 4 years. She's a very direct woman. She was like, so what the fuck are you going to do? And I was like, okay. Because the kids, they're not silly, are they? They expect the conversation. Well, I know my family did, for example.
100%.
Yeah. And they did chat was coming.
And my mum said, it's going to be a long job, this.
Did she? Is that what she said?
Yeah.
She was wrong. No, because it's a process. Do you know what, babe? Thank you so much for talking to us about it, because like I said, it's going to help so many people. And the fact that you're so open and vulnerable about the conversation, it's hopefully going to open the door for somebody else. Because I know the first time that I ever talked about my drug and alcohol use is when one of my ops managers opened up and said to me, look, Paddy, don't talk to me for the next 10 minutes because my anxiety is going through the roof. And I remember looking at that senior leader, thinking to myself, shit, if that person who's a senior figure in the business is happy to be so open and honest, maybe she's a really good person to talk to about my mental health, right?
It's nothing to be proud of. People aren't, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of, difficulty around opening up and talking about these things. And it's so tough for various different reasons for different people. And, if there's an opportunity to be vulnerable and honest and to show that this is the way to be able to get better. And there is, I love my life right now. Like,
good, mate.
Experiences, sober, drug-free, all the things that life makes exciting, that you don't need drugs or alcohol for, I've experienced, and, live music, all those things that are like super awesome, that's been the most amazing realization for the last 6 years for me tonight. Like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I don't
Without
need
it
to have any of this stuff. I've kept myself away from these amazing experiences by using all these years, So, to be able to then kind of help somebody else kind of see that it is worth it. I would say for anybody struggling and, it's kind of like, oh, my life will be boring, or I won't be able to do X, Y, Z because I won't be able, you can still do it, and life is amazing without it. It's the best decision you make. It's been for me. So, 100%.
Carl said that, right? Carl, I mean, they even Love Roy even created a boring AF beer, didn't they? People say it's boring as fuck being sober, or boring as fuck not drinking, and it's just not true, right? So there's a whole world out there without those kind of things. Look, mate, massively appreciate it. Thank you for 86 in TheSilence with us. I'm well excited because we're just going to keep on working together, aren't we? Right? We've got loads of stuff to do. But for now, we'll leave that there. Make it long, mate. Thanks, mate. If you or anybody else that you know has been affected by any of the topics of the conversations we've just had, please find all of the details of the support networks below. Big love.
Through the nights, chasing these dreams. So let's talk, let's vibe, let's team.